You're listening to The Sister Trill with Danae and Kiveli.
Hello and welcome back to The Sister Trill. I'm Danae.
And I'm Kiveli.
And today's episode is totally within the Halloween spirit, the spirit of the spooky season, because we decided to dedicate a whole episode of the podcast to our spooky, paranormal, scary experiences.
Exactly. I think that generally, whenever we talk about this, I always remark the fact that you've had like actual kind of paranormal, spiritual, not entirely in this reality related, intangible experiences. And I haven't that much. My experiences are mostly, maybe a bit of intuition, a bit of dreams, feelings, things like that, but never like straight up. I feel like I was touched by a ghost, something. I've always been a very pragmatically inclined person. So, but the funny thing is, though, maybe that's something interesting to preface, is that because I just said that I've always been the more pragmatically inclined person, but the truth is that is not entirely the way it is.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm more the one that gravitates towards.
It's hard to say.
I don't know.
It's hard to say. I mean, I would say that generally we're both pretty pragmatic people. Very much rooted in reality and need an explanation for a lot of things.
I would say that I see everything more like energetically. I'm very much into this idea of energies and this type of say approach.
But it's not that I'm necessarily not.
Yeah.
But so, it always. Yeah. I think generally we're both like on the more pragmatic side of things.
Okay.
But it's true that when it comes to, hard to explain experiences or what we would call paranormal experiences, I have always been a little more susceptible to this between the two of us.
Yeah, totally. But let's first start with what we disagreed on
this week. Okay. Well, we didn't really have a full-on disagreement, but what I want to mention...
But it's not true anymore, because I already know what you're going to say. But continue.
Well, what I want to mention is that... I just, not just, but actually a couple of months ago, I recorded a new album that's going to come out next year. And I'm right now in the process of editing it and of having to put all my comments and send them to the sound engineer. And today was my deadline for the final comments. And this whole process of giving comments started about a month ago, I would say. And a month ago, I got my first edit and said to Kiveli, take a listen. And I'm so interested in your opinion. Tell me which order I should put the tracks in, all of that. And I got 0 reaction. And then the weeks went by. Obviously, I send him my replies without Kiveli's opinion. And today was the final day, and I was like, Kiveli, you still haven't heard it. Do you want to give me any comments? And then at the very, very end, we listened to a couple of pieces, and it was so helpful. And what I actually want to say with all of this, I don't really want to complain. I want to just say that maybe you don't realize how important your opinion is to me. And when I ask you these things, it's because I really want your opinion, and I'm interested in what you have to say because I find it so valuable.
Okay, I feel really bad now. I'll take that to heart.
We're having a little therapy session on the podcast.
I'm sorry for not getting into it sooner. I mean, I have been very at the limit of my attention, having my attention on many things that I had to do this month. But nevertheless, generally speaking, if I can suggest for the future, the way that I, tend to do it when I ask you for advice is I don't just send you something and say, hey, write me your reply, because, it's also not very much my, thing to then write bullet points of what I think. Yeah. But it's more a situation of I'm asking you, I'm listening to it with you. And I'm like, do you think this or this is better? Mm-hmm. And coming with a concrete question or like what we did today. Like what we did today.
But I mean, in the beginning, I needed the order.
No, I know.
This really is something that we can only do
I'm just
separately.
saying, generally speaking.
I mean, it was a concrete question. Give me the order was the question.
Okay, unforgivable. I'm sorry. I'll take it all back. I'm super sorry. Although the one suggestion I did make
made it onto the CD.
Yes.
Obviously. As always. As always.
I did make a suggestion. No. Okay, I'm not even going to say what we disagreed on from my side because mine is like super, like
No,
nothing.
no, say it.
Okay, literally what I want to say is that, okay, I feel like so ridiculous. It's like nothing, it's nothing real. Basically, I was just going to say that you prefer drinking water, or you don't mind drinking like water from the tap of any place,
That's
including the bathroom. And I especially, and I mean,
Depends
I
on
get
the
it.
country.
In Germany, right?
Yeah, in Germany, yeah.
And I love the fact that we have a refrigerator that has, you know, the feature that you can get cold water from it directly. And like, I obviously use it all the time, and I find it baffling that having that option, you still choose to go with the tap water.
But you do realize that the water that goes through that refrigerator is also tap water.
The refrigerator has an extra filter, and
That
also
we have not changed in the past
that's
year.
not true. I changed.
It's
No,
true.
yeah, but I mean, it just now needs changing again. Those filters go for 1 year.
No, it's been saying change filter for the past months. I mean, it's literally tap water.
It's not tap water. I mean, also
It's colder.
Test-
It's colder.
Well, first of
I'll
all,
give
it's
you that.
colder.
Yeah.
And I read somewhere very interestingly that, well, it wasn't like a scientific thing. It was just like a comment from someone that the taste of water, it's not that the water tastes different. It's different temperatures. Like the water's
interesting.
taste is related to its temperature.
Yeah.
Which I found very kind of, I don't know.
That makes sense.
That made sense.
But you know, actually, you know why I'm so into tap water is because when I moved out of our house, I used to have this thing that's like a filter that you put tap water in and then you use it. And then somewhere I read that if you use this type of a filter and don't change the filter really strictly, as they say, then it's actually dangerous and can cause cancer and whatever. And it's much healthier in a country like Germany that invests so much money into giving us drinkable tap water, to drink tap water. And that's kind of when I shifted my mindset and went full on tap water and away from all these filters.
Let's just buy a new filter for the refrigerator. All right then. Okay. So let's get into this episode.
Okay. So we brainstormed a little bit before about which stories we want to talk about. And we kind of divided them into different types of scary and paranormal. So I think it might be interesting to start with this category where we've had a strange premonition or maybe like a vision of something that maybe came true or something
I mean, that's the one the only one where I can actually say that I've had things like that, because I think it's more of this like intuition thing, this like weird, you know, Jungian synchronicity concept, things like that. So do you want to start first?
Sure. I mean, I've had a couple of these ones.
Because yours are like really intense.
Yeah. Well, the one that I remember from, like the earliest that I remember is the one when our Greek grandmother died. And we were both in Germany in bed. It was during the night. We knew that she was sick. So this was something that we knew, and we knew that potentially the end was near. And we were sleeping, and I was dreaming, and I had a dream that she died. And I suddenly woke up from that dream, like in the middle of the night, and I screamed and called my mother and said, our grandmother just died. And in that second, the phone call came and the phone rang, and it was the call from the hospital that said that our grandmother had died. So that was pretty shocking. She was super shocked. She looked at me and she was like, no, it's just a dream. And then ding, ding, and it was like, oh my God, it was not just a dream. So this was definitely an interesting one. And I felt a little bit scared, you know, when that happened.
You felt scared when you found out you were right? Or you felt scared when you had that?
No, I felt scared when I found out that I was right, because I just thought, oh my God, you know, did my dream make it happen?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Yeah. I remember that very well. I also remember the other one, the one with your classmate. Yeah,
so another one in that direction was I had a classmate that was a little bit later that was in a very serious accident, and he had some heart problem, and his heart had stopped, and it was in the middle of the street, and then he fell and hit his head, and he was in a coma from that. And he was in that coma for a very long time. I think at that point it had been 2 years, and the class was always visiting him. Each of us was taking turns, and we would always go 2 people at a time to visit him at the hospital and talk to him. But of course, he wasn't reacting because he was in a coma. And then after a while, the parents somehow didn't really want us to be there. I don't know why. Maybe they felt bad to see healthy kids around him or something. And so, of course, we respected their wishes and stopped going and kind of stopped talking about him altogether. And then one day, one night, I had a dream about him waking up from the coma. And everyone had kind of given up hope and said, this is what it's going to be until they turn off the, how do you say, turn off the
like take him off heart support.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Turn off the life support. And so I had a dream that he woke up from the coma, and I had a dream that he, was like, I saw him kind of like standing up, like in pain, but, really trying to walk, because he used to be this very fit guy.
I remember I have this one, sorry, finish your story first.
And I had this dream that he's like really trying to walk slowly. And I woke up the next morning and I told my mother, and I said, I had a dream that his name was Maurice, that Maurice woke up, and that he's actually walking. And my mother was like, yeah, well, he's not going to wake up probably.
Yeah.
And so I go to school, and our class teacher says, like, the incredible happened. We just got a call from his parents, and he woke up. And then we started visiting him again.
Yeah.
Throughout this whole process of him, starting to talk, because of course he couldn't talk, he couldn't do anything, and slowly starting to talk and walk and everything. And when I was there, one of these times, this image, that I saw, this of him like standing up, is exactly the image that I saw when I was there. Like, he was in this bed and was putting his hands up and trying to walk and stand up like this. And I just thought, oh my God, like, I'm seeing my dream right now in reality.
Jesus. Yeah. Wow. No, it's this is crazy. I remember because obviously I didn't know all the people in your class at all. I knew some better than others, but I remember him specifically from this one evening, because it had been, because that was your class when you had gone to secondary school, right?
Yeah.
To gymnasium, which means that you started being in a class with him from 5th grade.
Yeah.
So you were like 10, 11, and I was 6, 7. And your school had put on a Halloween party, actually, a Halloween costume party. And you had taken me with you. So
I remember that,
together, because it was like this,
We went as witches.
We went as witches, exactly. and obviously, like, you knew your classes and I didn't, and I went there, and I've never been I was never a shy child, so obviously, like, immediately started talking to people. But I remember that as I went into the school, he was wearing this monster mask, and kind of playfully like stepped in front of me, and he was like playing with me the entire evening. It was like really giving me like lots of attention and everything, and I remember him from that, and like literally 1 year later that happened, right? And
he was so nice. He is probably.
Yeah. Crazy. You've always had these things, and I'm always like, this is so crazy.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that I've had in that realm, but it's not comparable because it goes more into this intuition feeling, but when our first teacher was in not even anymore the hospital, the hospice, it was very clear that things were coming to an end, and Danae already lived in Hanover and was seeing him very regularly, but I was still going to school, so I would only see him on the weekends. And I remember the 2 things. The last time I saw him, of course, at that point I didn't know it was the last time. It was this beautiful time, but I remember that I kind of, like, when I said goodbye to get the train back, I looked back at him and I said goodbye, and he said goodbye, see you next week. And me kind of thinking this is the last time, and also making sure that the last thing I said to him and he said to me, which was like, a very nice goodbye, were what I could live with being the last time. That was the first thing, but again, it was a feeling. It wasn't like a premonition or anything like that. And then I remember that the day it happened, which basically what had happened is he had died a couple of minutes before you went to see him. And then you went to see him, and they told you he just died, and then you called me, right? And before you called me, I remember that I was practicing. I was sight reading actually the slow movement of the first Scriabin sonata, which was the last piece I had spoken to him about that weekend. And he told me, you have to learn this piece, and I was sight reading the slow part of it, and I remember I was sight reading it, and I was kind of not really crying tears, but I was feeling incredibly sad. And I was sad, and I was kind of thinking to myself, as if I was kind of playing it for him, and it just felt, I remember I was alone in the house, like our mother had gone to run some errands or something. And I remember I played it, and I got really, really sad and introspective, and kind of, I don't know, I just felt like something was happening. And then literally I ended the piece, I went to my phone, and you called me, and you were like, he just died. And
kind of like you felt it happen.
It's with these things, I always find it very difficult to say in these situations, not with your, imagery stuff, whether these things feel even more like, they coincide with what happened in retrospect.
Yes, in hindsight.
Hindsight, or whether, actually, I remember thinking that in that moment, but I can also imagine I thought that a lot during that time,
I've also been thinking, for example, did I have multiple dreams, for example, of my grandmother dying, or him waking up, and then that just fit, but actually I never had it. No, I only had it once, and that was exactly at that time.
I mean, yours is significant.
Pretty
yours,
intense.
but yours have always been this spooky.
Yeah.
And there are some of these pictures that you've told me that haven't happened yet, where I'm just like, kind of,
are they gonna happen?
Are they gonna happen or not? And I think they are.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, sometimes I have these, like a vision or like a picture that I see. Yeah, well, basically that is a vision.
Yeah.
That where I know this feels so real that it has either happened or will happen.
Yeah. Tell the other story about you as a child and the
okay,
thing,
the
which
real
is,
paranormal
which
stuff.
is just
so,
crazy.
Until now, we've gotten into premonitions.
Yeah.
But okay, now let's get into the real.
Okay.
Okay. So this story is what I would call a real paranormal story.
And this is just crazy. Go for it.
And why I remember it so distinctly is because when I was in elementary school, we both went to a Catholic elementary school, and they were, talking about God a lot, of course. And then one of the assignments that we had in a religion class was to write down an experience where we had the feeling that we felt the presence of an angel. And this experience that I had came to my mind, and I wrote it down. And the experience was that we were at a family gathering with our family, with our parents, and we were playing on some type of a hill where there was like an edge, not like a cliff where you could die, but it definitely was good not to fall off of there. It went down a bit if you off that edge of the cliff, and we were playing there, and it was kind of the kids and the parents were somewhere further away. I don't know if they were eating or sitting at some table, and we were like running around playing. And I remember that my mother had told me a couple of times, don't go near that edge, you could fall, be careful. And I always loved being like generally heights, and being like at the edge of stuff was something that always somehow I found enticing. And of course I was at the edge, and I was playing there, running, and just having fun. And then at some point I somehow lost my balance, and I was like tumbling, and I was literally about to fall, and I just felt someone grab my arm, like literally a hand grab my arm and just pull me back. And it felt totally normal, and I was convinced it was either my mother or my father just being like, Danae, stop it now. So I felt that arm grab me, and I turned around, and there was nobody there. And I was kind of confused, but also I wasn't scared at all. I felt super reassured because it felt calming. It was just, okay, someone obviously just held me right now, and I didn't fall. And in my school report, I wrote down that was the angel.
The guardian angel.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if that was my guardian angel.
I don't know, this is so crazy.
And I've also tried to explain this incident rationally. Like, was it someone who then, went 5 meters away and I turned around and I didn't know that person. That's why I felt I didn't see anybody.
Yeah.
Something like this. I don't know if someone grabs a kid.
There's always this question of like, maybe you just kind of, last second found your balance again.
Yeah.
And the grabbing was like an illusion. But
yes, I think all of this is possible.
Right.
And
yeah.
I've also really tried to...
the other possibility would be that it was your guardian angel. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that maybe that first one is more possible.
Yeah, or also, another person that I didn't know well.
Right.
Because it was a big family gathering that maybe like, I don't know, an uncle, held me and then just went 5 steps to the left, for example, and I turned around and didn't realize. Mm-hmm. I don't know. So I just want to put that thing out there as well. But to me, it certainly felt like I can 100% vouch for that. Someone grabbed me and, I was like, and he grabbed my right arm and just, or he or she, I don't know.
Right.
And pulled me back. And then I turned around and there was nobody. And I was like, okay. And then kept playing. And I had kind of forgotten about that experience until
they asked about the guardian angel thing.
When did you experience an angel? And I was like, oh yeah, that's actually when I experienced an angel.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever experienced something like that.
Yeah.
I wonder... The thing is, whenever I've experienced things that have dealt with like intangible stuff, it's always this question for me of, how much is a combination of like placebo and you playing into your illusion, and how much is like an objective entity or something like that,
or all these stories that you hear of people that are in bed and then something grabs them, or there are so many videos you can watch of someone being like grabbed by air, basically. You don't see what it is, or I've never had something like that, and I find it very hard to believe. But in a way, I was grabbed once, and in a positive way.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm just gonna leave it there.
To be honest, sorry, totally different tangent, but I'm just thinking about it, right? Like the sight of, for example, great evil or great heroism, for that matter, again, it's this question, but I feel like you can say that there is this eerie energy or kind of, like there is an energetic thing going on that isn't the same thing as, a normal boulevard, whatever, Like if I think about, and it's a question of why, because there is, on the one hand, I'm thinking of like 2-3 different scenarios. One is like the typical one, like the site of a temple, or like I remember when I visited the Oracle of Delphi, and things like that. Or it's kind of like the significance of the place is so clear to you that it's very, and so many people have kind of, invested energy and time to come and visit this place that kind of, the significance is obvious to you, right? But then I'm also thinking of like other places, like, I've never been there, but I know that from and it's, this is probably the most striking example you can give, but like visiting Auschwitz, for example, where there is, of course, the element of...
So you're speaking about like potential spirits.
Yeah, I don't know if it's...
around
I don't know
Auschwitz.
if it's like spirits or if it's just the accumulation of so much intense emotion, in that case, intense suffering, that it does leave a mark.
An energetic mark.
An energetic mark that maybe in 100 years could actually be quantifiably measured. Right. By saying like...
also like, a cemetery has a different energy.
Yes.
Or, also this thing, a house where someone died in it,
Exactly.
A room where someone, committed suicide.
Yes. Yeah.
These are also houses that sell for a lower price because of this.
And Yes, I mean the thing is that with this, like the house where someone died in or this and that, like I've always been a bit skeptical because I'm like, like certain people are gonna be much more in tune to that.
Right, yeah.
But like I'm talking about these things where it's almost common knowledge that you feel something different in those places, where it's not even a dispute of do paranormal things happen or not, but it's just you go there and you feel like you've tapped into a different frequency. And that is the thing that also makes me think like there is something beyond, I would say, the tangible physicality of humans that is, I would say, you can feel it, you kind of, but it's very difficult to kind of, understand it or something.
I mean, I think maybe this is the point where we can discuss a little bit about this concept of, spirits, souls, reincarnation, because this is very much related to
you have to say, Danae is just full of these things, right? But you have to say just before you gave birth to your kids, things. I mean, that is just crazy.
I mean, first of all, like about reincarnation in general, right? I mean, do you believe in reincarnation or not? Or what do you think about that whole concept? I mean, reincarnation, I guess, is obvious, but it's the concept of when you die, your physical body dies, but your soul or spirit, whatever you want to call it, lives on and finds a different physical body. And of course, there are many different theories of reincarnation, but generally, it can be anything. It can be a tree, it can be an animal, it can be a human, it can be a stone.
I mean, I so wish I would believe in it in a way, because of all the models of like heaven and hell and this and that, the fact that, there is something beyond, as I said, something beyond the physicality of our body. I don't believe that like, I have faith in it, but I believe that there is something more, just because even within personalities, there are so many intangible characteristics that are, I can totally imagine that there is something happening with these things after we die that is probably also scientifically explainable if we had, if we'd arrived at that frontier in a way, right? But and the other thing that, especially with reincarnation, is that a lot of the, I would say, schools of thought that I take a lot of inspiration from do also believe in reincarnation. So that's the other thing that I struggle with a bit, like a lot of the thinking, around spiritual journeying and this type of that, we're going to get to much more in later episodes, very often go hand in hand with the belief or the conviction that our souls have been around for longer than our bodies, and that we carry into this life traumas, bad and good decisions from past lives, And so that's why, like, I'm not prepared to be like, oh, no, I don't believe in it. But that's because I'm not prepared to say, because I'm not, sure, I'm agnostic, if you will. But also I do believe that there is something beyond, but that thing beyond is things that we haven't yet understood about ourselves, and therefore create these metaphoric stories to kind of make it tangible, be able to kind of work with it in a way. And I would put reincarnation in that category.
Yeah. No, I totally understand what you're saying. And I think that it's very, a very wise approach to put reincarnation in that category. Because, as you said, there are things that we don't understand. For some people, it's God and paradise and hell. And for others, it's reincarnation. And for others, I don't know what it is. But, yeah, for sure, I have, felt these things that we cannot explain.
Yeah.
And what I
specifically
feel, but what I feel very strongly is that this idea, which is so, well explained through reincarnation, but as you say, maybe it's something completely different, and like the concept of reincarnation is just the easy way of explaining it. But the concept that the life that we are living now is not all, but is just one tiny bit in the huge mosaic. This makes a lot of sense to me, and also somehow gives a higher purpose to my life, you know, if you can say it like that. Not that I wouldn't find a purpose without that.
No.
But I find it, for example, I find it striking, you know, when you are somewhere, or not only maybe, you know, stories of people that when they are somewhere and they know the place but they've never been there, you know, this feeling, I know it, so maybe I know it from before, you know, things like that. Or when people are hypnotized and they can suddenly speak a language that they haven't learned, it's like, why do they have that
access to that
knowledge somewhere inside of them? Of course, you could also say maybe they have, you know, heard bits here and there, and our brain is so
subconscious and kind of,
or also our brain is actually so powerful we cannot use it properly, and then under that influence of being hypnotized, they can suddenly piece it all together. I don't know, but
these things happen. And
these things happen. These inexplicable things happen, and reincarnation is somehow a logical way, let's say, of explaining it. And for me, I mean, I have had visions, if you can put it like that, of my kids before they were born, and of my kids, not how they would be in this life, let's say, but what I saw, what in my mind I pieced together as, okay, maybe this was a past life of them. And I mean, you know, so many things, of course, that I saw, and I cannot even talk about all of them, but for a while I was totally exploring this. But the interesting thing is that the characteristics that I saw, and that I was also telling Kiveli, like, I mean, I'm not making this up, you know, post-birth, but like before they were born, very much correspond to who they are now. And yeah, I mean, well, I don't know what to say, but for me, with my experiences that I lived, it somehow makes sense, and it makes my worldview balanced, because I cannot explain what I saw otherwise, and also certain things that I'm experiencing. But I'm totally open, and I mean, I'm totally thinking, you know, that this can be just an easy way out of explaining something way more complicated that we don't understand.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's fascinating because, I mean, obviously it's beyond also what we've experienced, or, well, you've experienced and seen. Also these books about, you know, therapies working when you find out that the issue you're having is related to a past life. And of course, in the end of the day...
And I mean, sorry, I just want to say that the whole idea of, you know, also ghosts or whatever, you know, so many people say, I see a ghost. They say, you know, is a soul in between, right? Like in between lives. So that basically, if, for example, I was to pass away and then my soul lives on, maybe I will be here to protect you as a spirit. Like I will grab you so you don't fall. You know.
It's fascinating because whenever then we get into that, I'm like, I would love it to be
true,
that way.
You
know, because I mean, what goes along with that is also usually the idea that time is not linear, but that, you know, a life that in our linear timeline would happen in, let's say, 200 years might have been a life already lived.
Yes. Yeah.
And of course that kind of creates this feeling of meant to be-ness, or kind of this like grand narrative of identity, and in a way, on the one hand, it kind of makes the petty little everyday squabbles even totally insignificant. You know, it's like, you know, this is just one day in the one life of many, or things like that. But on the other hand, it also, I don't know, it gives me this feeling of almost like peace. Or, you know, like, it takes the pressure off of like, everything has to happen right now, you know? But I can't say that
it's like you have an endless amount of time.
An endless amount of time. There is this endless amount of time feeling, and also an endless amount of, not endless, but like, you know, I've got multiple chances. And like, you can get better at this thing called life, or things like that, you know? But at the same time, like, I can't get myself to believe it, because I have not seen it. I have not, and I have not seen it, and And for me, there are too many theories out there that have all, equal experiential proof lived by different people.
Yeah, of course.
To say that it's definitely this and not that. You know, like there has been so much proof of people, seeing Jesus when they die, and that's the real thing. Or
I mean, in like as a let's say for example,
when they almost die, like near death experience.
I mean, for example, a Christian, let's say, if they were to see a ghost, what would they call that? Is that like then the devil, or what is that? Is it an angel? Is it Satan?
I think that both angels and demons exist, right?
So it's either like or. It's a helper of.
It depends. It depends. Like there is obviously the protective angel, angelic situation.
Like as a Christian, then the entity is always somehow holy, right?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, and then like the witches, the so-called witches, were like, they were hearing whispers at night. The devil was whispering in their ear. A demon was whispering in their ear, and the only thing I wonder is exorcisms was always not just for the devil. It was also different demons. The idea of demons, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Because
and I mean,
you
of course,
do that with
the crazy
with a person.
Thing, right? Yeah. But I mean, the crazy thing to me always, and I think that's why I always land at that thing. Like these are all things that could be scientifically explained. Once we have significantly more scientific knowledge, is the fact that all these mumbo jumbo things often work. Exorcisms work, if you will, or these hypnotizing, then you think that, you did this and this in the past life and suddenly your pain is gone, works. The near-death experiences where so many people see the same thing, the alien abduction experiences where so many people completely independent of each other see similar images, get similar messages. All these things exist, right?
Yeah, what I also find interesting is that often the people that see something or know something supposedly, for example, I'm thinking about the witches,
right?
They were simply people that had a knowledge of plants, knowledge of medicine somehow, she's a witch.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that was just pitiful. I mean, that was a whole other thing.
No, but I was also thinking, maybe it's sometimes the wiser, that then are just given the stamp of crazy, or
especially in like a society, with dogmatic obviously like Middle Ages, right? No, but what I was thinking about is like these things work, like the alien things. I went a bit of a different is because the power of your own faith is more powerful in a way than whether God actually exists or not, or whether that exorcism did its work or not. Like the placebo effect is off the charts strong.
I mean, when people pray over someone, for example, I personally wouldn't believe that would have any effect on the patient, but it has happened that with prayers, diseases that are not curable were cured. Yeah. And I believe, as you say, that this is just the belief. It's the faith. And and it's the people really thinking this will work. And I think the strongest force within us is our own mind. And this, what we just briefly talked about, that we don't use our full brain power, has been so fascinating to me ever since I was a young child. I don't know the exact percentage, but
I think it's like 2 or something, right?
I don't know if it's that low, but it's very low.
I remember,
it's very, very low. And I remember always thinking to myself, if we were able to use our entire brain, I mean, what would we be able to do? Would we be able to fly? Would we be able to
teleport?
Just
move objects.
Anything, levitate. I don't know, but exactly, move objects. Because I think it's probably insane what we can do, but then again, we can't because we would probably go crazy. And people that have these savants, that have an incredible gift, then don't have
at
the
cost
other
of
things.
something
else.
And,
It's always like we cannot use the entire brain. It's not possible.
Yeah. I mean, there are like two stories. One is that kind of demonstrate the level of the power of the placebo effect or like the, you know, believing in something effect. One is like, I think a quite like just a scientific study that was out of the placebo effect. And I think it was basically what happened was that there were two groups. One group got diet pills and one group got sugar pills. And they were trying to see, and they both believed they got diet pills and how it worked. And it worked the same for both groups. And the crazy thing was something, I read that, I'd have to reread it to explain it. But even the people at some point that got told that it was a sugar pill still had results
because they
with
still
the diet
believed
pills.
it, or
No, but because it, like, even like, you know, the taking a pill thing, I'm not sure about that, but that was just, I read like this extra thing and was like, that is crazy. And then, of course, the crazy, intense kind of horror-ish story that is just crazy is that in this one, I think it was a mental institute, where a patient was planning on committing suicide with sleeping pills, and his caretaker found out. So he replaced the sleeping pills with sugar pills or like milk powder pills. And the patient took, 10 sugar pills that night
and died. Yeah, exactly.
From sugar pills.
From nothing.
From
basically.
nothing.
Yeah, from nothing. Yeah, the placebo is just crazy. This experiment that you mentioned with the diet pills, I read about a different one with alcohol. That people were given alcohol and non-alcohol, but everyone thought that they were having alcohol, and the non-alcoholic drinkers were as drunk as the alcoholic drinkers. Acting as drunk.
Yeah.
And some were also like, oh, I'm feeling sick, I want to throw up.
Of course, Especially because, this also, if you play into something, it obviously just magnifies so much more, you know?
Yeah, pretty intense. Well, I have one more pretty paranormal story.
Okay. Which one?
So this story is about a person that I was pretty close to that was already pretty old. And then what happened was, because there are two perspectives of this story, but what happened from my perspective is I was at home and I got a call from him, and I picked up that phone call, and he said, help, I just fell, call an ambulance, help. And I called an ambulance and sent it to his home, and then later on in the afternoon went to the hospital, and this person was already over 80 years old. Went to the hospital and to see him, to see how he was doing. And I came into the room and he was like, wow, Danae, you saved my life. And I said, I just called the ambulance. I didn't do anything. And he was like, yeah, but how did you know? And I said, well, I knew because you called me. Like, I just picked up your call. You said help. And I called the ambulance. And then he said, no, I did not call you. I was on the floor. He had fallen. And I was looking for my phone. I didn't have anything. And then suddenly your voice was there. And I said, no, but you called me. My phone rang and I picked it up. And he was like, I did not call you. And then I took my phone and I showed him my call log, and it said incoming call and his name. And then he showed me his phone and his call log, and there was no call to me. So that was pretty spooky. And I swear that he called me. Like, this is...
Yeah.
How else would I have talked to him? It doesn't make any sense.
And especially there is, like, the technological aspect of it that, your phone's malfunction, Because, for that to go through, he must have then deleted it?
He must have deleted it, or I don't know, the phone must have fell down and restarted. I don't know.
It's crazy.
Might have fallen down because he fell down. Mm-hmm. But then again, of course, we were talking. So, for the talking, it was somehow functioning.
Yeah.
I don't know, but from the moment that I entered the room, he was so convinced that a wonder had happened.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, you're my angel, Danae.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Like, I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And he already was on that, I don't even know how did that happen. And then when I saw that, I was like, wow, okay. Interesting. And I didn't really think a lot of it. And then some days before he died, we talked about it again, and he said, Danae, like, you were my angel. You know, he said it like, again, you're my angel, and there are some things we cannot explain. And he also told me that people before they die, including him, suddenly become religious because, they're afraid
I remember that.
of what's going to happen. So,
which
made a lot of sense.
I remember also someone telling me that people, when they are born in their first few years and again in their last few years, are more in touch with the in-between world.
Which
I
totally think makes sense.
I mean, that is assuming that there is this in-between world.
Yeah,
right?
or in touch with something, right?
In touch with something.
Just like when you're little, you have imaginary friends.
Yeah. Okay, now I understand where you're taking this.
I mean, you don't have imaginary friends as an adult.
That's true. Yeah.
Unless you really are.
Yes. Have
a problem.
In touch with the less tangible things, more comfortable with it also, and things like that. Yeah,
with whatever. Also you might think that a shadow is it seems normal to you.
Can I ask you, because I mean that, why are you not completely convinced that there is nothing that you can't, that nothing else exists than what you can, touch, smell, blah, blah, feel. And that, of course, intuition and these things, yes, but why are you not completely convinced
that there is nothing?
That, basically you're born, you're nothing before, you're nothing afterwards, you get one life, like the Ricky Gervais perspective,
right.
quite clearly, that doesn't take it all away from the intangible, listening to music, getting this type of thing, but,
You mean besides my experiences? Why am I not convinced?
Yes. I mean, even with your experiences that you're.
Somehow, I mean, I don't know. It's a hard question. I mean, of course, my experiences played a big role. But I find that I find it hard to believe that, our brains are, or that we are just that. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say I feel it in me, but I feel like, what is it that drives us? What is it, that creates, as you said, energies? What is that? Is that all really just, I don't know, a chemical reaction in our brain? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe it is, but especially with kids, for example, I find it so interesting why are they so imaginative? Why do they have all these things? Why do they sometimes say things that don't make sense but totally make sense to them? I don't know. I feel like there must be something where I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But I know that I don't feel 100% reality and nothing else. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing, because
it's not like I'm going around ghost hunting.
Yeah, right. Because I mean, there are two things that I always think about. The one thing is that very extremely advanced scientists very often, I don't want to say turn into believers. I mean, they don't suddenly start believing in God, but I mean, they the level, I mean, I don't understand that level, right?
Yeah.
But many times when I've tried to kind of, touch upon the rudimentary understanding of the basics of what they learned in their first year of university or something like that, and it always starts it almost seems magical, it immediately gets it's so mystical. It's like the universe, astronomy seems like science fiction sometimes, like actual things. So I kind of almost I what I keep coming back to is that kind of this in-between world or anything is where science hasn't gotten to yet. Definitely hasn't gotten to yet, but also where the reality starts, the actual objective reality, but on a level that we cannot comprehend with our pure little ape brains. We were talking actually yesterday about the fact that you cannot comprehend infinity.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or
you cannot depict it.
Exactly.
You cannot, in an audible way, in a visual way. You cannot feel it. You
Yeah.
It's just something we cannot understand.
Exactly. Yet it exists.
Yes.
You know, like if you will,
Yeah.
like you
on
know,
an abstract level, we understand that it exists.
yes, yeah. So I'm just thinking like, you know, that this is what it is, you know, and that's why it's like,
You know,
I feel comfortable
Yeah.
being at the same time saying like, no, I don't think that it's all just
Yeah.
this clear cut kind of thing, while at the same time, you know, not saying therefore God exists, or you
Yeah.
know, therefore ghosts exist.
Yeah.
But that, you know, it's so subjective, because the things that we haven't yet found words for, different people are going to call it different things.
Yes.
You know?
For sure. I mean, just like, you know, if someone had found out how to create electricity,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
you know, 1,000 years ago, that would be God.
Yeah.
You know, oh, he's touched by God. He can create
Yeah.
light. Of course. I mean, I'm sure that there is a big element of that. You know, things that we haven't found words or that we don't understand yet
Yeah.
are magical.
Yes, yeah.
To us.
And we find kind of old words for them.
This is why I say, you know, also this concept of, for example, reincarnation or anything intangible like that can be an easy way to explain something else that we don't understand yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
But as of right now,
This is
it's
the words.
the way
These are the words.
that I
Yeah,
can,
yeah.
for example, explain it.
Yeah. I mean, my thing that I always come back to also when, you know, people ask me, do you believe in God? Or, you know, like, especially, you know, I always come back to, I think the reason why, I mean, I don't believe in God, if you will, right? But I believe in like this is because I believe that we haven't yet understood the true vastness of reality, and we might not yet for a long time, or ever for that matter, but that reality itself is supernatural in a way.
Yeah. You know, even science has found out, for example, that time can go backwards. You know, for example, something like that is incredible and almost
exactly.
a scientific proof that something crazy like, our lives might not be linear is scientifically even possible. Or, for example, the fact that although you will totally die if you fall into a black hole, but that if you were to spend time in a black hole, time goes at a different pace than outside.
Yes.
And that you will be there for 1 hour, but on planet Earth, I don't know, 100 years or whatever, will have
so I mean, exactly.
gone by. So this is also scientifically a fact and super strange. This is, for me, actually why I also believe more, because it's like, okay, it's possible.
I mean, even like this like the death thing, like, you know, what is death exactly, you know?
Well,
because I mean, you can
stop breathing. That's death, right?
Yeah, sure.
Our heart
but
stops
I mean,
beating.
Brain dead also seems pretty dead to me, you know?
No, but that's not dead, because you can wake up from brain dead.
Yeah, but I mean, your heart stops beating, fine, but I mean, your heart might stop beating by itself, but a machine keeps it beating, and therefore you're still alive.
Yeah,
you know?
that's why you're dead. Aren't you dead when your heart stops beating?
No, I mean, that is, I think, the official,
the
official thing.
You
sure.
mean spiritually, or
no? I mean, like, no, not just spiritually, but I mean, what I'm trying to say,
because
like, you know, because we're trying. What happens after you die, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to say, like, maybe right now we've already extended life to, you know, what happens after you die. Well, maybe a machine keeps you alive for a while, right? You know, that's because already a first existence.
How there are these out of body experiences when you're on life support,
absolutely,
where the person says, "Oh, I saw myself
being operated on." There.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying.
So maybe if you're brain dead, you can travel. And, you know, your physical body is just
yes,
there.
right. But I'm just saying, like, there are all these things that, I mean, at this point, but this is a whole other episode, right? But I remember talking with this one friend of mine who studied this PPE course at Oxford, which one of it is philosophy. It's like philosophy, economics, and something else. And he was saying that, you know, they were talking about what is identity. And then, you know, that there are all these different schools of thought, like the sum of your experiences, is it tied to your body or not? What if, like, you know, all your experiences were in a different body? Is it still you? And then the other, you know, like all these things. And I mean, the truth is that once you really kind of, you know, start analyzing all these concepts that we take for granted and that we kind of live our entire life by, like, this is me, my body, my experiences, my childhood, my belief system or whatever, you know, and we live our lives with these things, or, you know, another favorite concept of mine, free will, and all of that, you know, we live all that. And then if you start analyze them, you at some point always get into a place where you're kind of like, actually, I don't know. Actually, you know, like there's so many paradoxes attached to it, and things are not that clear, definitely not that clear cut. And that is always this barrier that you push, and then you're like, okay, so what does that mean? And the truth is, you can still continue living your life, because these concepts, these almost like I don't know, like bridges that we have to kind of exist in a normal way, to not go crazy, are so strongly and fundamentally established that even if you know that free will is kind of an iffy concept, even if you know that identity or things like, you know, what is life, very difficult to explain properly, you still function with those same kind of helps and with those same beliefs of this is who I am, this is my free will, this is my choice, even if you know that it's all kind of less tangible than we would like it to be, you know?
Yeah. I mean, in the end, we live and live by what we have created as a system, as a belief system for us.
Yeah.
And this is kind of our framework that we have, you know, made sense of.
Yeah.
And if for someone it makes sense to believe in God and paradise and heaven and hell, then they live by that, and that gives them incredible meaning, and that's beautiful, you know? This might not be my framework or your framework, but for them, it can give them incredible energy, incredible hope, incredible strength, also fear of, you know, doing the wrong thing. And
I mean, it can also give them incredible belief that somehow very bad things are justified, as it has happened countless times.
Yeah, of course. But I meant that, you know, you create your framework, and what is baffling to me is how powerful that framework is. You know, I was recently watching a video where someone who was a very strong believer in God was talking about big medical problems. And then in the end, she said in a very natural way, yes, but God is bigger than science, so he might, you know, heal that. And to me, you know, this sentence just doesn't make sense. But in the same time, I thought, wow, I mean, to her, it makes complete sense on the level that it's probably true for her.
I understand what you mean.
And it will work for her. It would not work for me, but it will. Yeah. Because she believes it so much.
But then, I mean, I don't know why, but I always feel that it's so important for me whenever, like, I hear a version of that story, to jump in and say that, first of all, for me, quite clearly, it's a symbolic, metaphoric naming of an aspect that exists in our own brain.
But do you want to say this to her?
No.
No, because I don't think you should say anything to her.
No. To her, if it works for her, why destroy that framework, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, if we're talking about which general way of thinking is better for a society, like, you know, if you want to convince generally people to adopt a framework that is most beneficial to their lives, I always think that one that gives away responsibility is more, or kind of gives away, gives away power of self-determination in a way, is, I would say, sure, it can be very powerful and strong because you're kind of like, it takes away also from your ego, which is maybe a good thing. Yeah. But I always find it incredibly tricky, risky, also a bit of a threat, because it's like, if you give away responsibility for one thing, how easy it is to give responsibility away for another thing. When do you stop taking responsibility for your life, in a way, you know?
Although, I mean,
or what does that do for you?
Yeah, and
you know?
I understand what you mean, but I think that the flip side is that people take responsibility for much more because of that as well.
Sure, that's the good scenario, right?
Yeah, and I mean, and they would not be as responsible if they didn't believe. Yeah. So I don't think it's that simple to, you know, say it takes away responsibility. Not only, it also gives you a lot of responsibility. I mean, I've seen it go both ways. Yeah. I have one friend who grew up quite religiously and who told me that this gave him incredible strength in life. And also kind of, you know, he still prays today when there is
I have a friend like that as well.
More difficult phase. And he says he's not sure if he necessarily believes in the classic God.
Yeah.
But what he does know is that the ritual and the practice is beneficial to him. And
right.
I think
absolutely.
I think that in the end, that's what it is. You know, if you have a practice, if you have a ritual,
Totally.
and that is, you know, positive and rooted in, you know, love and, you know, somehow making your life and other lives better, then that's as powerful as it gets. No matter how true it is. I mean, in the end, that's like also a very philosophical thought, but, you know, also what is truth? Because you know, because we're talking about paranormal, what is real, what is truth? Because is there even in reality, you could say there's an objective reality
that already is
maybe
that statement is not 100% signable.
but you know what I mean. But with like what is truth? Because, you know, there's always my truth, your truth. You know, there's this model where in a discussion they say there's the one person's truth, the other person's truth, and then the objective truth, whatever that is, which is what happened.
Right. I mean,
but I mean, when you say truth, like when I say what
I mean,
is true,
we should separate perspective from truth.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I would say that we should say that it's true that this glass is on this table right now. Yeah. Right. I mean, now we can of course go on and say like, well, you know, I'm only in my head. I don't know what you, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You know, like we've had that conversation.
Or, you know, we are on a planet. We're on a planet and right now we're upside down. So this glass is actually, so the table is actually on the glass right now.
I mean, right. I mean, this is a rabbit hole that I would love going down with you, but for time issues. Yeah. But I'm seeing like, so sure. But I would say that, to go back to this whole like, is it just as good to think you're doing it or God is doing it or someone else?
Yeah, and what I want you to say is, if it's your truth, I don't think it's someone else's place to tell you this is not true. Because yes, it might not be true to them, but it's true to you.
Right. I mean, generally, like, when does someone else have the right to try to convince you to change your mind about something that works for you?
I'm not even talking necessarily about convincing. I mean, also, you know, this discussion where we are like, you know, I don't believe in this. I'm thinking whether we should maybe just say this all exists and it's simply just a version of every single person of explaining the world to themselves.
I agree, and that is if the result is that all the people with their infinite different versions are, you know, productive, peaceful members of society, and even more than that, not just productive, it's also happy and fulfilled members of society. Sure, absolutely. But I'm thinking like, you know, 500 years ago, the framework led to a lot of bad thing, and it needed people being like, well, maybe that framework works for you, but hang on a second.
But
it also
I think
leads
that we
to a
have
lot
to
of things.
really separate between belief and faith, and then systems systems like the church or things like that. You know, because this, I know that this it's of course
but I mean,
connected,
even like
the framework, but I think that. This is a completely different subject.
Sure. Yeah. But I mean, even the, I don't know, person that believes so much in just the power of prayer that doesn't take their whatever sick daughter that has leukemia to the doctor because God is going to solve it. You know, like even that is already a thing, you know? Yeah. And of course, I mean, with that person, you would say, convince them to bring them to the doctor. Yes. Yeah. But that's why I'm saying, like, if we're talking about generally better or frames of thought that lead to more happiness, more inner prosperity, you know, versus ones that lead to less and work better in the life that we live in today. I do think that there is something about believing that all that incredible, magical, tremendous, godly, metaphorical world is inside of you, as well as all the demonic, you know, cataclysmic, totally deprived world is also a part of you. Both of that exists in you, and it's your responsibility to kind of move between those worlds in a way that makes you a good, decent human being that is happy.
I mean, which
you
is
know?
what most people try. This
Exactly.
is what most people
And-
use the framework for.
Right. And I mean, you could very easily, of course, say that when people pray is they try to call onto their God. In my vocabulary, that would be like their better kind of nature,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
And do that, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But of course, to also remember that if then, you know, something makes them do something bad or a bad habit, no, it's not that you have to, you know, it's not a demon making you do these things, it's you giving into a worse habit. Now, if you perform whatever exorcism and that bad habit is gone, more power to you, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that may not work for your child or the next person that would
think-
have much more
I think
success tackling it as a self-determined problem.
I think in any case, all these things, of course, will get dangerous if you start being so dogmatic about it that you exclude other things. So like the father that doesn't take his daughter to treatment because he says only this works.
Yes.
That's stupid, of course. But if you do everything you can.
That's a good point.
Right?
Like, you know, but the
you
question,
don't exclude anything.
But the question is like a framework that we said that is as influential on your life as, you know, your belief system and everything around it. How capable are we of just practicing it ourselves without trying to put it onto anyone else that is important to us?
Yeah.
Like, I think that
of course, depending also on how far into it
exactly,
you are,
and how well can different frameworks coexist with each other depending on the framework, of course, right?
Well, speaking about coexisting, you know that in Berlin, where we live, they are building or I don't know if they already have, but I don't think it is open yet, a house of belief or like a house of prayer where it's going to be a house of worship for all religions.
Oh, I did not know that. It sounds interesting.
So cool. I don't know how it's going to go because
Sounds very interesting. For all beliefs, like, so how, I mean, that already like begs the question of, is there a cross there? Is there,
I'm not sure. I don't know the details. I just know that it's going to be...
Is it round? Is it pointed?
Specifically for all religions, not just one.
And I suppose that within that also like the obscure ones and the, like, you know, the more spirituality. But
yeah. Maybe there are different rooms. No, but I guess that defeats the point.
Right.
But yeah. So I think it's one big thing where everyone is next to each other.
I'm definitely checking that out.
Yeah, it's interesting, right?
It is very interesting, yeah.
And one last thought that I had, but this episode was already pretty long, so I just wanted to touch on that because it just came to my mind. The concept of healers. You know?
Right.
Doctors that use energy to heal you. Also, I haven't personally had experience with healers, but I have, again, a very close friend who has told me some amazing stories.
I have another close friend that I went with her to her healer once.
Yes, I was thinking about that experience.
Yeah.
And for example, he had told me that he had some injury in his mouth area, and then
he's a wind player, so
and he's
not good.
and then he went to that healer and she healed it, and it was like very serious, and she healed it in a matter of hours, and it was just gone with energy, and he felt it like get warm, and then which again I think is also probably just a way of using the brain that we are not capable of, but then also what is it? Is she tapping into something? Is she in touch with something else? Who knows?
You know, this one time where I went to her healer, I mean, she is a singer, and I mean, she told me that she has had tremendous success with her also, like on a physical level, you know. I mean, it was a very interesting experience, definitely. I remember that what was interesting was that, you know, we took turns lying down in the middle, and people kind of try to, you know, heal each other in a way, you know, with our human energy. And that when I lay down, specifically the singer, you know, who was there with me, like broke out crying and was like saying like, you know, I see trauma in your childhood, and you've never cried for it, so I'm gonna cry for you. And I was like,
oh my God. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely very like powerful in that moment.
Yeah.
Of course, subsequently also thought we all have something in our childhood that we deem traumatic.
Right, yeah.
And, you know, so I mean, like, yeah. But definitely, I mean, it was powerful in the moment, totally, for sure. Yeah, I mean, healers, that's
yeah, but that's also an interesting thing.
Yeah, yes, totally.
Yeah.
But that for me goes totally to this category of
witches.
Right. I mean, this untapped knowledge that
Exactly.
they found
People that have some more
techniques
knowledge,
around the whatever barriers that we usually have in our minds to use it. I mean, even like the Wim Hof method, right?
Right.
Which has the Wim Hof method is this like method of enhancing your life quality, but sometimes also quite seriously healing yourself from so-called incurable or far gone diseases.
Scientific.
Yeah, but it has three kind of parts. One, like the most famous one, is of course the cold exposure,
breathing,
right? The cold exposure, which is a very scientific approach. There is the breathing, which also has a scientific element. But there is the third one, which is this willpower, right?
No, the third one is stretching.
No, the
yoga.
third one is, like, if you read his book, the third one is willpower.
Oh, okay,
the power
okay.
of the mind.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, the three things you're supposed to be doing.
You're supposed to be doing the Wim Hof method.
Okay.
Is breathing, cold, will, mind. Your mind over body is the third one, right?
Yeah.
And within that mind, he was describing that, for example, he did these, he's an incredible pioneer in how far you can influence your body, like things that we've previously believed to be not influenceable. He's shown scientifically that it's possible. And one of the things he did was the like being exposed to cold without your body temperature going down. And the way he does it is through like certain breathing methods and everything. And he said that like from the scientific level, like they had enclosed him in ice, and he did it the first time with the breathing, temperature didn't go down, and then they said, come back now without the breathing, and do it again. And he said in that instance, he didn't have any tools apart from the power of his mind, and it still worked.
But again, I would argue that because the whole thing is where his body is at, where his blood is at, with this whole alkaline and everything.
Yeah.
And I would argue that he has his body at such a state where doing the breathing in that moment is not so crucial.
Sure.
In order to maintain it.
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, there's still.
But of course,
I mean, he the way he describes it, it's like without the breathing, he was worried, or if you will, like will it work, or anything? And even if it wouldn't have worked, would have been totally fine. Like, wow, okay, that breathing technique works, and not doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
But
no, of course, the power of the mind.
Yeah.
I mean, this also kind of plays into what we were talking about, being competitive, in the moment, creating
adrenaline, all these things. I mean, mind over body is I mean, it's a
for
thing
athletes, it's a huge thing.
I mean, for anyone in these, I mean, explain, for example, like this mama bear strength situation, that you
like
cannot
lifting a car off of your
we
kids.
women have difficulty, opening the lid if it's women,
what do you mean we women?
No, what I'm just saying, can you please open this? We're not strong enough to do this. And then
speak for yourself.
You know exactly what I'm trying to the point I'm trying to make. But then your baby's in danger, and suddenly, woohoo! And
the car is lifted, or like their bus is stopped, or
and of course, insane amount of adrenaline, and I don't know what else is being produced in that moment. But I mean,
but still,
it would be wonderful to have access to that amount of adrenaline in other situations, or whatever it is, No, and I mean, that's probably what it would mean to be able to have more control, to suddenly have
incredibly
access.
strong.
To
We could probably focus on putting every inch of strength in our body onto this one.
And by the way,
task.
the group of people that talk increasingly about being able to focus your mind in ways that whatever are considered superhuman is, of course, the people that advocate for regular meditation without any spirituality or religiosity attached to it, like literally just sitting down with your mind, freeing your mind, not thinking about anything, and then they describe also these feelings of incredible high, without anything happening, and these incredible yogis that are somewhere in a cave, not having eaten anything and whatever, and just
for decades,
but just existing happier than any other person on earth.
Also, some Greek philosophers did that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Living in a barrel.
Absolutely right.
Just needing a little bit of sunlight.
Exactly. So I mean,
they were there already.
Right. I mean, all that. Obviously, I mean, this of course needs a lifetime of commitment, this meditation thing, but these things, we know that these things exist, but because it's so intangible and hard to reach, we put them into a category of, you know, mystical worlds,
Yeah.
you know? And it's fascinating. Every time I talk about it,
it opens up so many things.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it would be interesting to also do a proper episode on religion or, you know, everything around that.
Yeah.
But I think for now we have
yes.
reached an end point. And I think it doesn't make sense to really tell stories today because we were only telling stories.
Yeah, we were
the whole
only
time.
telling stories. Absolutely, yeah.
So this is our spooky paranormal episode.
So we're
We hope you enjoyed it.
considering for the next episode, we have to see how we're going to be for time when we record the next episode, because we're considering finally in the next episode talking about the big one for us, which is having our debate on psychedelic substances, the use of psychedelic substances,
exactly.
And everything attached to that, which I'm pretty sure is going to be a
long one.
Yeah, a long one, or probably like one that we're gonna.
I mean, let's see.
Part one,
see.
part two. We'll see.
Let's
But
see.
in any case,
that's gonna come out the day before Halloween, so it's still gonna be, you know, spooky.
yes,
with
yeah,
the psychedelics.
yeah. So spooky,
Well, I mean, like, you know what I mean. Yeah,
moving,
in the Halloween
inspirational.
spirit. Yeah, you know, ghosty.
Right. We'll see how it's going to
Anyway,
be.
happy Halloween season.
Exactly. And see you guys next week. Sending lots of love to you all. Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to The Sister Drill with Danae and Kiveli.